Hi, it's Mark Marmer from Signature Electric. We're at the 2023 EV Charging Expo. Check out these highlights.
The objective with the show was really to bring together the EV community who are providing EV solutions and services, and to bring in the marketplace of buyers, fleet operators, building owners, property developers, to really help them meet these vendors, and also to engage in a bunch of conference programming where there's some real experts speaking from experience about charging deployments and EV fleets being deployed. We've had already over 300 ride and drives take place. What we wanted to do is bring in some commercial electric vehicles, electric vans, electric trucks, so that fleet operators can actually see them up close, experience them, meet the vehicle manufacturers that are bringing these products to market. It's the first time that all these vehicles have been in one place together, so we have a great collection we have the BrightDrop, the Zevo 600, the Ford E-Transit, the Lion 6, everything from a Class 8 semi-truck to a Class 7 and right down to the Class 6 and all the vans and so on.
Hello everyone and welcome to Amped Up. We have a remarkable depth of experience joining me here on stage today.
Everything's electrifying. The demand for electrical equipment, base electrical equipment, is just so strong and factories are full.
Once you need to change the service, you are now in the hands of the local utility, and 12 to 18 months is nothing unusual. Forget the cost.
We've got to get in front of governments, provincial governments, and say, look, we need regulatory support for utilities to become innovators and supporters and active, proactive movers in this space.
We all have to play a role of facilitating these discussions with the utilities. And we have a really good landscape in town in terms of utilities. So we have a good cost of energy here. Most of our sources come from renewable source of energy as well.
Whatever you can do within your utility service, do it. Do it. That's the sweet spot.
You know, as much of this planning as we can do ahead of time, it's helpful. But you know, you have to deal with what you have.
We are here, and I'm with my good friend and big supporter of electric vehicles, Nino De Cara. Maybe we'll take a little walk down and tell me how things are going at the show.
Well, thanks, Mark. The first thing I've got to say is thank you to you, Mark, and Signature Electric for coming on board as a partner and sponsor. You know, we can't do these things unless companies step forward and actually help make the show and make it what it is. There's a lot of talk about what can be electrified, and I think one of the messages we wanted to get across is more than you think, and it goes right to the very top of heavy-duty vehicles.
No question. And this is going to grow as people, and especially these fleet companies, are willing to take on and give it a try and be early adopters. That's going to help to drive this market and keep things moving.
Those who move now are going to get a competitive advantage on the other fleet operators who are slower to make that transition. You know, for fleet operators who need to electrify their depots, one of the first things they need to do is contact their utility and actually start talking to them about what their potential power requirements are going to be, because it can take a long time for the utility to get that depot hooked up with the right amount of power. And so
try to start where you can. Get a couple of drivers in the seat and let them feel the difference. Let the drivers come back and say, wow, my day was amazing. How was yours? And make it easier to convince.
These are quieter, smoother. You know, they're a much nicer ride for the drivers. And I think if you can get those people on side, it's going to really help with the process. The time is now to start the planning. And that's a big message from the show is it's got to start now so you get that lead.
So we've begun in an electrification space since 2009. We're really a battery storage company and an energy management company. Around 2013, we started to go into the business of EV chargers. Our entire business model is around grid-optimized EV charging and battery storage. So the way that it works is we have our Joule Hub. It connects to the facility, and we trickle charge that battery energy storage system from the grid at very low power input. So it fills up the battery, and we offload the charge of the battery to the dispensers and to the vehicles. So what ends up happening is that you have a much more efficient flow of electricity without putting a heavy strain on the grid. And without really propping up your utility bill and your infrastructure bill. It has a lot of use cases in grid-restrained areas, but also in places that don't have the bandwidth to upgrade their panel to accommodate for level 3 DC fast charging. It also makes for a smaller footprint on the dispenser front. So our dispensers, they're actually a lot smaller for level 3s than traditional direct-to-grid chargers because all of the power electronics are within the battery. right? That's why we call it the Joule Hub, because everything is central there. It's the brain, it's the storage, it's the power, and then the dispensers are just extension cords that just propagates that to the vehicles. The battery, it provides you EV charging, but the primary purpose of it is peak shaving. So the cost of electricity in Ontario and in the majority of states in the US as well is different throughout the days, and there's times of the day where demand for electricity is higher, the cost is higher. We're storing energy at very cheap rates, then we're able to power the facility with cheaper electricity than when it is during peak times, right? And during those days, the facility taps in from the battery, and we're able to save a tremendous amount of money on their utility costs from those 5 significant days. Over the lifetime of the system, you're actually paying back the investment a lot faster than you would if it was direct to grid. If, for example, any of the Loblaw sites that we're at right now were to install solar on the roof, the battery would be the one capturing all of that energy coming in from solar, so we wouldn't even be storing energy from the grid, which, again, even cheaper on an operational front. You can find us on joulepower.com. We have actually a white paper that we just published on our retail deployment in the grocery space. So if you're looking for more details and statistics on how this makes sense, you can download the white paper on there and learn more, or just, get in contact with us directly.
One of the features that they had is a ride and drive. This one in particular, I wanted to take a look at. Made here in Canada, am I correct?
It is in Ingersoll,
Ingersoll,
the CAMI plant, former Equinox facility, and they're now in full production. They began full production back in December. Your Prime Minister was there.
Very nice.
Yeah.
What kind of availability there's going to be?
Yeah, so there's been quite a few public announcements by a variety of companies, both big and small, that they've been plan to purchase the vehicle. So we are sold out of our model year 23s and now building model year 24s. Kilometers, you have 2 options. You have a 400 kilometer capability or about a 330 kilometer capability, depending on which battery option you go with.
How about maybe I'll climb in the driver's seat and you'll be able to point out a few of the features. Okay, so we're inside the vehicle.
Same display that you'll see on the Humvee. In front of you, of course, you have your speedometer and your range remaining indicator on the left. If we were driving on the right-hand side, it would show you both the energy being consumed as you step on the accelerator, and when you come off the accelerator with a single pedal regenerative braking, you would actually see how much power you're putting back into the vehicle.
How are we doing with sort of reduced maintenance in this kind of a situation?
That's right. We have a conservative estimate of a savings on maintenance and fuel of approximately $10,000 a year. There are no belts. There are 40% less moving parts on an EV than on a combustion engine. And so it's just completely different drivetrain. So we do anticipate quite a bit of savings on fuel and maintenance. This vehicle charges level 2 or DC fast, so it's your preference. A lot of questions around range, a lot of questions around how cold weather or hot weather may affect, but lots of stuff out there from GM on how these batteries were tested at our proving grounds in Northern Canada. Again, same display you'll see on the Hummer, navigation, integration, Android Auto, you have it all in front of you just like you would in a personal vehicle.
Maybe we'll take a quick peek at the back.
This is an empty box. This is the 600 cubic foot short version. We also have a 400 cubic foot version.
Dan, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Keep well. Good luck with the vehicle.
Thank you very much.
Hi, James DiCanio with FreeWire Technologies. We are a battery integrated EV fast charger. We've got a battery buffered solution that allows us to be a level 2 input, so I can connect to low input power, 240 volt or 208 3-phase.
Okay.
But I can output at a level 3 output power of 200 kilowatts, or simultaneously charge 2 vehicles at 100 kilowatts each. So I don't need a step-up transformer like a 480 volt to be able to access that level of power. And the reason why it works this way is we use the battery to basically buck boost the output power using proprietary DC to DC converters to essentially increase what our output power looks like. So if you're a customer, right, or even an installer, you're going to avoid some of the utility upgrades that might be required to do DC fast charging, things like switch gear, a step-up transformer. You're going to avoid the lead times on some of the additional equipment that you need to do. Most importantly, for a customer that's actually operating like a DC fast charger, I'm going to avoid all the additional operating expense that comes with having that high input power to actually service those vehicles, right? So I'm going to avoid a lot of the demand charges, or even avoid some of the more costly power if it's a time of use structure. The 27 kilowatts that's coming in, 20 kilowatts of it is coming into the battery, so it's trickle charging the battery. About 5 to 6 kilowatts is to be able to operate the rest of the electrical components within the unit. Okay. And so if a car pulls up, that 20 kilowatts now goes directly to the vehicle. Right. And depending on what additional power that it can take, on the charging curve cycle, we're using the battery to go ahead and boost that additional output power for the vehicle. Let's say you have a fleet, right? You could either spend millions of dollars on the infrastructure, or as you start growing adoption of the fleet, put 1 boost charger, 2 boost charger, 3 boost chargers to be able to deploy at a much more effective economic scale.
So just to be clear, everything is in the charger. We don't have the battery separate, right?
Yeah, absolutely, right? So we avoid all the additional electrical components that you might see with standard DC fast charging.
Very intriguing. Everybody doesn't want to jump in with both feet. If I put 1 or 2 of these units in, I've got enough power. If I need actually more power, I got time to start talking to my utility and start figuring out how that's going to come in so that I can plan ahead of time and then start popping them in. This really sounds scalable.
What we say is that the unit is semi-permanent. It's 8 bolts that gets mounted into a concrete pad. Maybe they're just leasing a space. When their lease is up, they could take the unit with them and move it elsewhere as well, right? We look at what the total cost of ownership looks like. If you were to install one of these units, we're typically going to be about 20% less than what it costs to install a full project for a DC fast charger. Mm-hmm. When you look at the operating costs, we're going to save you a significant amount of money because, again, we're only pulling in 27 kilowatts, so we're avoiding a lot of the high cost power. It does come with its own software where you can actually manage the chargers. So we do also provide that solution to our customers. It also allows you to do configurations on the LCD screen, especially from a retail customer. If they want to be able to show advertisements, they want to be able to display things to their customers, they have the real estate to do that on the screen as well. freewiretech.com. If you have any other questions, you can always reach out to me and my team, and we're happy to support.
Good luck with the show. I'm glad that I dropped by.
Thanks for coming by.
My pleasure. I came over to speak to Eddie, our good partner from EVolution. People want to know how we can scale up, or I have this much money, or I have only this requirement, but I think I'm going to have this requirement. What can you do to help me so that I can get started, get my feet wet?
Today, the maximum cabinetry we have is up to 3 cabinets. Yep. Next generation will be almost unlimited, so they can go a gigawatt and over. But in the current state, each cabinet can hold 4 modules. Each module is 50 kilowatt. Right. So that is 200 kilowatt per cabinet. But you can start off with 2 blank cabinets, install them together, all 3. Yeah. And maybe install 2 modules and get 100 kilowatt and wait until the demand is needed. If you're a dealership and your head office tells you add another 100 kilowatt, we have those in stock. You call us, order them, slide it in, 10 minutes of booting, and you add that extra power. Okay. But redundancy-wise as well, they're split into 25 kilowatt channels. If something fails, the whole system works minus the channel. Okay. So that allows you future-proofing, scalability.
Let's go over and we'll see the dispenser.
I mean, this is pretty much the highlight, the superstar here. Okay. I mean, that's a mobile charger that speaks for itself, that has a similar module in this particular unit.
This is a pretty massive cable on this unit.
That would be, I believe, a 300 amp cable right here. The system itself ranges from 150 volt to 1000 volt, depending on your battery requirement.
Right.
But I think this is the craziest probably engineered system here. That is a spring, but it's a very sophisticated spring. Essentially, you can pull it in a linear way, so you don't waste that height that usually the pulley mechanisms have.
This is interesting. I'm telling you that for us, cable management is a big issue. These cables cannot be always just resting on the floor and what have you. So finding a way to manage a very large cable like this, this is a very interesting solution, and it looks simple.
The easy part about this dispenser is the same dispenser regardless of the kilowatt or the output required. Okay. As I mentioned before, the channels are 25 kilowatt per channel. So you can go as low as 25 kilowatt dynamically, all the way to, let's say, 240 kilowatt with an 800 volt battery and a 300 amp cable. You can have 8 of them lined up, no matter where you're gonna park, regardless if you're in the end of the cycle, and you can only take in 20 kilowatt of the maximum initial, you'll get what you need with minimal idle power. And that's where the system kind of becomes whole. By the MAC address and the VIN number, based on how you configure the dashboard we call it the Master Depot software or the fleet management software, we can say that those two vehicles, maybe the fire truck's vehicle, have priority charging. So you can have all 8 vehicles plugged in out of a 600 kilowatt system as an example. The first one is 150, the next one is 150, the third one already is going to get 100 and 50 and 25, but the first 2 will get 150 each because they're priority. We can allocate dynamically 25 kilowatt in real time.
Does the system have the ability to tell me what's happening in the truck? This truck came in, it has a lower battery.
In the AC world, I think we're not using much of the communication cable in the J1772 plug, but in DC, we know the battery age, the battery condition. I mean, it depends on the manufacturer of the vehicle, what they're releasing to us. You can then design, you as the operator or the owner of the fleet, any sequence that you want.
Thank you so much. I'm happy for our partnership and collaboration. I'm happy that you've made the effort to work your way around the world and bring the right products here to Canada, put them in the show and be here. Where are we going to find information?
The name itself is Evolution Charging, ev-evolutioncharging.com.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
This is the EV Charging Expo 2023 put on by Electric Autonomy. It's been a lot of fun, a very successful event for us. I'm looking forward to next year's event. If you're looking for more of this kind of information, check out our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Signature Electric. If you actually subscribe, you'll be a little secret. You'll be at the front of the line when these new videos come out, and certainly on our website, signatureelectric.ca. Thanks very much for joining us, and we'll keep providing some of this interesting information and being in the right places as EV adoption is happening.